This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi. And today we're going to talk about PSA Grading, buying Beckett. Well, technically it's Collectors, the company that owns PSA Grading, who's buying Beckett and Beckett Grading and all the other stuff that comes with the name Beckett. We're going to talk about a couple other things, including what's going on with the Olympic hockey rink in Italy, and if the NHL should do more color versus color jersey games, and a couple of other fun, interesting topics, including some trades as well. So anyway, should be a great show. So gentlemen, how are we this fine evening as we record this show? Clemente, I'll start with you this time, just to mix it up and keep it interesting.
Well, just to unveil the curtain a little bit. So I feel confused because normally we should tell people on Monday night. It's actually Tuesday night. So I'm getting Monday vibes all of a sudden, even though it's not Monday.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't say that because I almost said Monday night and I caught myself. Like, just say evening. Don't have to give the date because I don't like people to know what day we record because
it's usually a mystery.
They can know, but
it's a mystery usually.
I don't like to say, oh yeah, we're recording this on a Monday and then be like, oh, well, you didn't post it till Friday. You're lazy. You know what I mean? So I like to kind of keep it a little vague.
No, I know.
Details, but
that's why I said we're lifting the veil a little bit of the back behind the scenes of what goes on at the show.
Right.
So, I feel a little confused, but by the time you listen to this, it will not be Monday or Tuesday and you'll be fine and you'll just move on.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us.
All right. Well, glad you're getting Monday vibes, I guess. Tim, how
about
you?
Monday's terrible. Monday's terrible.
Okay. Now I'm confused. Tim, how about you?
If I was a graded card, I'd be a graded authentic.
Graded authentic.
Yes.
No
number, just an A. I'd have an A.
Yeah. You are the real deal.
I'd have the Scarlet A.
The Scarlet A.
Well, if you lost some weight, they can say it was trimmed.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We can.
There you go.
So I wouldn't be I'd be Ozempic. How about that?
Oh.
An O.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. I'm glad we're getting in the show tonight. Always good when the three of us can sit down and record. And it's funny because this topic that we're going to talk about towards the end of our show about Beckett being bought by Collectors, the parent company that owns PSA. When I heard that, I'm like, okay, great. We got a big topic. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of stuff that we can always make a topic. We can always pull another set, a new set, an old set. Last week we did those oddball sets that seem to be pretty well received by our listeners. Definitely the people who listen to our show tend to like it when we talk more about the vintage stuff than the newer stuff. But I feel like we should talk about the new stuff because, it's new and eventually it becomes vintage stuff. But it's kind of like what's shaping the hobby currently, right? Like a card from 40 years ago might become popular again, but a card that just comes out will become popular and everybody's talking about it. It's a little more newsworthy, I think, even though, we all kind of tend to fall more on the vintage side of things. But so today we're going to talk about should the NHL have more color versus color games, like with the color jerseys. Like we had the Rangers and the Blackhawks play, and we had the Blackhawks wearing their red jerseys, the Rangers wearing their blue jerseys, and it was very colorful, very cool. We'll talk about Tristan, Jarry, and Stuart Skinner getting traded for each other. There were a few other parts in that trade, but the Jarry-Skinner trade, Quinn Hughes getting traded to Minnesota, trouble with Italy's Olympic ice hockey rink, and then PSA buying Beckett. So that's what's on the agenda for today. Should the NHL have more color versus color games? In a word, yes or no, Tim?
Absolutely.
Clemente?
Yes, for sure.
I agree. I've always wanted this, and I've wanted this to happen. And I'm glad that I got to see something like this. Yeah. So just to give a quick recap, so the Red Wings and the Rangers both wore dark 100th anniversary jerseys in their game on November 16th. I did not watch that game. I was like aware of it. I saw pictures of it afterwards. And I remember like making a note thinking, that's kind of interesting. They're both wearing their dark jerseys, whatever. And then when the Rangers and Blackhawks did it on, it was actually on December 10th. I put December 1 by mistake, but December 10th, I enjoyed the game. Like I liked it. Well, I liked it because the Rangers were wearing their throwbacks. And the Blackhawks don't really have like 100th anniversary throwbacks. They're doing like, they're putting gold trim around the numbers and around the logo, and they're bringing back the black jerseys from the 90s, but they don't have like a 100th anniversary jersey. They're just doing more of a patch that's on their jerseys. The NFL used to have a color rush. The color rush games, Tim, maybe you could talk about that for a minute, because I don't watch much football because I'm just kind of vaguely aware of color rush. Like, remember reading something about it? Huh?
I mean, bottom line, it was a marketing scheme to sell more jerseys, but I mean, that's really what it boiled down to. But the whole idea was Nike sponsored it. And so everything would be the same. So color rush, pants, jersey, helmet, everything would match, all the same color.
Okay.
They stopped doing that as a regular thing in 2018, but a lot of teams still do it, but mostly it's like, we're going to roll this jersey back out, but it's like the third jersey, because just like anything else, hey, if we put this weird jersey we don't normally wear, people will go buy more jerseys. Mm-hmm. So that's really what it boils down to. So, but they don't have official color rush games anymore. So,
when I was a little kid and I just started vaguely becoming aware of pro sports, I would have been like 5 at the time. Like, I knew who Walter Payton was. And I remember back then, the Chicago Bears would wear their dark jerseys and their dark pants. And I thought it looked really cool, like, because they had the navy blue helmet, the navy blue jersey, and the navy blue pants, or dark blue, whatever color. I always thought it was navy blue. But then in the other games, and I think maybe it was their road games, then they'd wear the white jerseys and the white pants. And I didn't like the way that looked. Like, I thought that was like too much white. But when it was all dark, I just remember that being cool. And then by the time, I became a little more aware of football, then the Bears were like doing like the dark pants, light jerseys, or light pants, dark jerseys, or whatever. Which I kind of like that about football, actually, is that you still have color. Well, I mean, I know there's exceptions, like where you have teams that'll wear like the white pants and the white jerseys, or maybe that's not an exception. I've never been like a huge fan of the NHL's like white jerseys. Like, when I got into hockey, I came in right at the tail end of, was halfway through the 88-89 season. And what was significant about that is that the Canucks wore yellow home jerseys that year. And that was kind of like the end of like a team wearing a non-white jersey at home. Just to give a little bit of history for our listeners. And a lot of you probably already know this, so this isn't anything new to you. And some of you might not be aware of some of these things, but like, okay, so the Kings, before they got into their cool black and silver jerseys, when they got Gretzky, they wore purple and gold, and they would have gold home jerseys and then the purple road jerseys. And the Canucks, when they changed to the black, red, yellow flying V jerseys in 1980, they had a yellow home version. And then later on, when they went to the Canucks skate logo in like the mid 80s, they'd have like a yellow home version. The California Golden Seals, for what it's worth, they had yellow home jerseys from 70 to 74. And then the Penguins had something similar from 80 to 84. But Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, that was just for Sunday games?
Yeah, it was just like the extra jersey that they had. So wasn't anything really special.
was this to get people to want to come to a Penguins game on a Sunday so that they could see the yellow jerseys? I mean, I don't get like. I'm just wondering, like, what's like. I think that like the third jerseys are fun when you see them, but to me, they're not like, oh, they're gonna wear their throwbacks. I have to come to this game. You know what I mean? To me, it's not like it.
I don't think it had anything necessarily to do with that. It was just, look, those were dark times in Penguins history.
Mhm.
You know, they had to tank to get Mario Lemieux to fix their franchise. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, people weren't really filling up the arena back then. So
This also reminds me a little bit of when the Rangers wear their Statue of Liberty jerseys like on Sundays during those Fox or ABC games, always late in
Yeah.
the season. They would wear them, and that was always either Saturday or Sunday, mostly Sunday, because maybe there was a TV audience there, or I don't know what it was, but that was always like this like special jersey they're wearing, third jersey kind of thing.
Didn't they call those the Sunday jerseys when they rolled those out in the 90s, like that awful King's Burger King jersey and like the Penguins jersey with like the gradient that eventually became like their regular road jersey?
Yeah, it's like a Sunday 3 p.m. game or 1:30 game kind of thing. I don't know why that is, but maybe
a lot
you get
of
a
times
different
when they
crowd.
roll out third jerseys, that's how they start out, and then they become like, here's our regular one. But,
yeah.
Look, this looks good on TV. I mean, you see the dark on dark, it looks great on TV. As long as you have a color contrast. I mean, obviously we're not going to take the Red Wings and put them up against the Canadians and make them both red, because that doesn't work. I think that actually violates. I think it violates one of the codes in the rule book.
I think so.
As long as they're contrasting, they're okay. And if the NHL signs off on it, then obviously it's okay too. But you know, we don't have black and white TVs anymore. We don't necessarily have to have one dark team, one light team, just to, you know, split them off. You know, they changed it they flip-flopped the dark and white back in like 2002.
Right.
I think the home team should go back to wearing the dark colors myself, personally.
You mean the white colors?
Preference. But I just don't want.
You mean the white, because the white was home and then the dark was away.
Yeah, that's what you want, right, Tim?
I want them to go back the way it originally was.
Oh yeah.
So I don't like the flip, but I get it. I mean, there was a time where it was needed. You know, you wore the dark jerseys on the road because you didn't have access to washing machines to clean the white ones. So, I mean, there was a reason for that. We don't have that anymore. We have technology.
I didn't know that was the reason.
Now.
That's a good.
That was one of the big reasons. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like a made-up reason, but okay.
Facilities didn't have washing facilities to let the away teams wash all of their clothes and jerseys and everything else, because you were going to the next place and going to the next place. So you just took the dark ones, so all the scuff marks and everything didn't show up so well.
Interesting. Yeah, you know,
we don't have that time anymore, and we don't wash jerseys like we used to. You know, guys might wear them a couple times, and that's it. You know, they're going to get a new jersey.
Right. Then they're going to end up on me gray the next week or my gray or whatever. You know, a funny thing, Daryl Ray, the color commentator, he wrote this opinion piece for the Hockey News. It was maybe like 10 years ago. And he talked about how he didn't like the white home jerseys. And Ray, being a, you know, kind of a sci-fi, I don't want to say nerd, but because he's a pro athlete. So that you can't be a nerd and a pro athlete.
Geek.
You know,
he can be a geek though.
Well, whatever. So he just basically said a white hockey jersey is great if you're a tauntaun hiding from wampas on Hoth. You know, like, because you'll blend right in. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally true.
Wow,
right?
he is a nerd.
Yeah. I mean, oh yeah. And then he made another comment about the Melk and Mind meld when it was during a Penguins game. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of a team wearing, if anything, I mean, not every team can wear a yellow jersey, but I think if you're the Nashville Predators, you could wear a yellow jersey at home and a dark, your dark blue jersey on the road. Or if you're the Vegas Golden Knights, you could wear a yellow jersey at home or golden jersey, and then like you're a really dark gray on the road. So, and then, you bring up the red on red thing. the table hockey game that I grew up playing that belonged to my mom and my aunt with the old metal hockey guys, it was Blackhawks versus Red Wings. And the Blackhawks were in their red jerseys and the Red Wings were in their red jerseys. And it used to annoy the hell out of me. I mean, even though you can only control the guys that were connected to the rods you were pulling, it was still annoying because you'd look at it and everybody was in a red jersey, but then you'd be like, oh, that guy has blue pants. That guy has red pants.
So
like I said, as long as there's contrast, I don't have a problem.
Right.
I think it looks good with the darks.
Yeah, no, I'll just chime in to say that, coming from a mindset from a different sport. So in soccer, for example, teams have a primary jersey. It's normally a darker color, and then their away jersey would be maybe the white one, but you only play with the away if there's a contrast. So like, for example, I think New York Rangers, I think blue jersey. And so that would be their jersey. And they play in blue all the time, unless they end up playing a team like maybe the Blue Jackets or something, where they have the contrast and like, oh, they're in blue, so we can't be in blue, and we're away, so we have to be white. Because I know people who will buy jerseys and they'll never buy a white one. They always buy the darker one because it gets dirty and other reasons. So I think for branding purposes, it's nice to have the primary jersey, and you can still have the white and a third jersey if you want, because it's Sunday at 3:00 and you have a national game or whatever. But I think what it would also do, it would eliminate getting rid of the white jersey. I bet you they have stats on this. I bet you teams sell more darker color jerseys than lighter colored. They sell more home than away ones, I'm guaranteed. But also it would get rid of the white napkin patch on a card, because there wouldn't be that many of those out there. And this would help collectors. We'd all have red patches and blue and yellow and black and just color stuff.
Good point.
Which we all want, because we all call that one the napkin. I call it the napkin, just a white generic thing. You don't know what it is, and it could, So for us collectors, I think it would also help us. So here's hoping that maybe in the future that becomes something that becomes normal.
Here's an idea that I just thought of, and I wish I thought of this earlier, but I just thought of it now. What if we just make all the white home jerseys black home jerseys? I mean, there might be some times where it might not work with like a team like maybe the Rangers, or if a team who has their primary color as black, like the Kings. But I mean, that's an idea, right? Like you just always have one team, like, or that could be the home jersey, or that could be the road jersey. So have the visiting team wear black jerseys and instead of white jerseys.
There was this period, I think, starting in the 90s up until today, where every time a new team emerged, it was like they were going to be black. You're like, oh, of course they're going to be dark. I remember when the New Jersey Nets moved from New Jersey to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
They went from being like blue and red and white to
they
being
were like red,
black,
white, and blue,
and then they became black and white. It's like, of course they went black. It's like ever since the Kings did it in the 90s, every team wanted to be black and white. And so I don't know that
black is cool.
Yeah, I guess so. And then I wonder if that would create some kind of, would look so weird, but not a crazy idea, and still probably better than white. But then every team would look the same in a way, maybe. I don't know.
But they kind of do anyways in the white jerseys. But I mean, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and the NHL's already kind of looked at this, and they have a lot of teams that want to do it. And they actually looked at the schedule and figured out that about 60% of the games this would work for. The rest it wouldn't. So and the other problem is you think about it. You go on these road trips, right? Like look at here's a perfect example this year, Edmonton. After this stint right now, they're playing the Penguins, but after this stint on the East Coast, they don't go back to the East Coast the rest of the season. So they've had a lot of away games on the East Coast. So they've been out a lot. They had to do this. So they had to do this, and they had to bring dark jerseys and light jerseys.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of stuff. You have to pack 2 sets of full uniform setups to go with you wherever you're going.
Yeah.
So helmets and socks and sometimes gloves.
Because you're going to have to match it all.
Right.
Yeah. So I think logistically speaking, that's why they were figuring, hey, we could pull this off for about half the game. So, why don't we try it? See how it works out.
Well, that's why they stopped with the dark jerseys on the road, it was because you'd have home teams would say, you know what, we want to wear our special third jersey at home. So then the visiting team would be like, well, crap, okay, we got to wear our white jerseys. So then they would end up having to pack both, like you said, both sets. But then with the heightened security after the 9/11 terrorist attacks in 2001, then it was kind of like, okay, well, now this is more stuff that needs to get checked, more stuff that needs to go through security, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, you know what, just have the road team wear their white jersey so that the home team, if they want to wear their third jerseys that are black, great. If they want to wear their regular jerseys that are red, great. You know what I mean? It won't affect the visiting team. They're just going to wear their whites no matter what. And that made sense. I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense now. Maybe it's not necessary now, or maybe it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, so what? You're part of entertainment, right? And if this is to entertain the fans by wearing your yellow jerseys today or whatever, then you do it, right? Like, I don't know.
Why do we wear our third jersey or special jersey or
to sell jerseys?
Because we're selling jerseys.
You know, speaking of like the color conflicts, one thing that I always found interesting is that in the Olympics and in international competition, Sweden always wants to wear their yellow jerseys. And they'll only wear the blue ones if they have to, but the yellow ones are like their go-to. They'll just say, look, if we can wear our yellow ones, we want to wear our yellow ones.
Well, that's a great example. That's the soccer example I was giving you. Sweden, even the soccer team is always going to wear yellow. Now, if they're away, they play blue, but only if they have to wear blue, not because they ever want to. So at the Olympics, you'll see that.
Uniforms, Sweden uniforms, the yellow with the blue little crowns on them.
The 3 crowns,
yeah.
Those look cool. The blue with the yellow crowns, those look like pajamas.
Or are we just not used to them?
Yeah.
I think they look like pajamas.
I mean,
me.
You know, one thing I just want to also point out to our listeners and viewers is that there have been some instances of all-star games where we've had dark on dark jerseys. So again, this idea isn't totally unprecedented, but in 2000, 2001, and 2002, if you guys remember North America versus the world, when that was like the thing that the NHL did in the all-star games, we had blue and red jerseys. And I even like one year they did blue and red, but then they had the goalies wear like white jerseys that had like red trim or blue trim because they made them look like soccer goalies. Like, hey, Clemente, explain this to me because you're a soccer guy.
Yeah.
Why do the goalies wear different jerseys in soccer?
Goalies wear different jerseys because in soccer you have so many set pieces, including corner kicks. So when there's a scrum, lots of players are running around. Your team knows who your goalie is, and the other team can tell who the goalie is because the goalie can use their hands and no other player can. So you want the goalie to distinguish himself or herself from the rest of the team. Now, the goalie, for example, in soccer can't wear the same color as the opponent because that would be confusing.
Right.
So the goalie tends to wear black or silver or something really, different from, let's say, Brazil's in yellow, Italy's in blue. Those are 2 different colors, and then the goalies will wear silver or black, and they'll stand out, and that's how you do it. But that's the reason why. And in hockey it's a little different because clearly the goalie's the guy with the different stick and the pads and the glove, and it's got different equipment on, right? And you don't have like set pieces. Other in hockey you have face-offs, but you can tell who the goalie is even even in traffic. Goalie's pretty obvious who it is. In soccer, it wouldn't be so obvious. So that's the reason why. And the idea of the goalie wearing even a different color, that's a cool idea too. You mentioned that they did it at the All-Star game. That would be a good idea to do also in regular games if you wanted to. But like you said, the logistics of packing maybe may be the issue here.
And then in 2017, 2018, and 2024, there were, when they started to like the 3-on-3 games with like the divisions, we're talking about all-star games now. So then they would have like 4 different jersey colors for some of these all-star games, right? So you might have like a black team playing a purple team, or a yellow team playing a white team, or, a black team playing, a blue team playing a red team or whatever, right? Just however they, just however they did it when they did those division. Remember the Bieber jerseys? I should have shown a picture of that looked like the Star Trek uniforms. There was a yellow one, the blue one, the red one, the white one. they all looked like something out of Star Trek, which was hilarious.
And don't forget the Four Nations final, blue on red. That looked good.
That's right. That was awesome.
Because national teams are always doing that. They're favoring their darker jerseys, I think.
Yeah. So something I want to touch on, just because, not to nerd out about this, but one of the things I teach is user experience design. And sometimes one of the things we talk about, like, especially when designing web pages or designing mobile apps is, what about people who don't see color, are colorblind, or have some sort of color impaired vision when it comes to seeing color. So, color blindness, color vision deficiency, whatever. So that affects about 4.5% of people in the world. Now, I'm not saying 5% of people in the world are watching hockey. But 1 in 12 men have some form of color blindness. 1 in 200 women, so way less women, have color blindness. And in most cases, it has to do with red and greens, having a hard time distinguishing reds from greens because the colors get muted. I actually had a teammate who was colorblind when I played hockey, and I'd run a pickup game, and just one time he just kind of made an offhand comment. He wasn't complaining. He just says, "Oh yeah, I have a really hard time when we have guys out there with gray jerseys." I'm like, "Why is that?" He's like, "I can't really tell the grays from the whites," And he was also talking about certain jerseys, how they were kind of tough to, figure out, is this guy on this team or on that team? So he would kind of more look at their helmets or other things and then just try to make a mental note of that. And I said, "Well, no, that's good information." So then I told the guys in my pickup game, I said, "All right, listen, no more gray jerseys because that's confusing." And also that's confusing because it's is the guy in the gray jersey on the black team or the white team? And I'm getting off topic here, as I tend to do, but so that's just something to think about, how they would see it, right? And the colors, they get muted, the reds or browns, or the blues can kind of look more purpley. So then they kind of tend to look more similar to each other. So I'm just saying that's a problem. So when you said 60% of the teams, right? There are some matchups that make more sense than other. For instance, any team that's in a yellow jersey can play a team against a dark jersey, and you're going to have very good contrast and therefore good accessibility for people with some color blindness, right? Or dark versus orange, right? So if you have the Kings play the Ducks, no problem. Or if you have the Kings or the Mammoth play like the Sharks, right? Because the Sharks are in teal, also not a problem. Or even doing maybe a gray jersey instead of a white jersey. I just don't like the white on white of the white jersey versus the white ice. I like it when they pop, even just giving it a little bit of color makes it pop. So I said my piece about that. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts about the color on color, other than yes, please, more of it.
Yeah, they should ride it into the ground like the outdoor games until we're sick of it.
Which outdoor games? Because we got the Winter Classic, we got the Heritage Classic, and we got the Stadium Series.
Yeah, lots of them. Yeah,
exactly. Ride it into the ground.
So, keep doing it until we hate it.
Well, that's the thing. I like the Winter Classic, but I don't really care about the Stadium Series. I just never.
Same.
It to me, it just feels like another Winter Classic, but less important or less publicized. I don't know.
Right. I mean, we don't get off topic, but the Winter Classic is everyone cares about that, and then the Stadium Series, only the teams involved. It seems the fans care about that. I think what Tim is saying is same thing with these color on color. If you just flood it, then it just becomes normal, and then we'll just be sick of it.
It's cool. Let's do it for a few years until we're sick of it, and then go back to whatever we're doing.
No, I like the way that it looks, and it's funny because you mentioned the Four Nations. I totally forgot about that, but I'm just like, oh yeah, that looked awesome. All right, we had a trade we had a couple of trades. We had a big trade and a not so big trade. We'll start with the not so big trade first.
Tristan.
Tristan, yeah. Hey, man, you could have proofread this at 6:30. I mean, at the hour before we started recording, not trying to
at undisclosed
away.
time and location, right? Exactly.
Undisclosed time and
Wow.
Yes, Tristan.
Giving
Insane
away
in the
secrets.
Tristan. So Tristan, Jarry, Stuart, Skinner. Okay, yes. So yeah, like a stain. He's a Tristan. I have nothing against Tristan Jarry, so apologies for misspelling his name in the video. I'm going to be too lazy to try to edit that out, so I'm just going to own my mistake. But Stuart Skinner is just one of those goalies that I like to bag on because he's a backup goalie that's been given every chance imaginable to like be a number one goalie on a championship team. And I'm surprised Edmonton has stuck with him this long. So yeah,
I agree with you. I can't believe that somebody else wanted him. So
I think the Penguins just wanted to get rid of Jarry, I guess. I don't know. Tim will give us some more insight on that in a moment, him being our Penguins insider. But just to recap, the Oilers got Tristan Jarry and Samuel Poulin, and the Penguins got Stuart Skinner, Brett Kulak, and a round 2 pick in the 2029 draft. So yeah, it was a trade. I guess the Penguins got more in that trade. I don't know, because they got the pick in like 3 years from now.
this trade is so bad that you're excited about a pick in the second round 4 years from now.
I mean, yeah. I don't really got much to say other than I just like, we talk about like, I don't know if we talked about this, but Connor McDavid signed that big extension, and he could have asked for more money. Instead, he asked for less money. And I think the subtext was, now use this extra money to get us a better goalie. And here we are. Tristan Jarry. Take it away, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, you watch this guy play all the time, so you probably know better than us.
Let me preface this by saying I am more disappointed that Sam Poulin was part of the trade. And not really not because I'm bagging on Jarry either, because all of the people that I deal with on a daily basis that talk hockey with me have bagged on Jarry for a long time, and I've come to his defense many, many, many times. But at one point in time, I was going to be a Sam Poulin super collector, but I held off, and I'm glad I did, because he just never could crack the lineup. He was good in the AHL. He played great for Wilkes-Barre. In fact, in his first game with the Bakersfield, he had 2 assists already for Edmonton in their farm system. So the other thing, Kulak, that would have been a great pickup 4 years ago. And the pick, I feel, is insignificant. So here's the thing. This is my opinion. I don't know how I feel about this. Jarry's one of those likable guys that you want to have him stick around on your team forever. The only thing I hear about Skinner ever is what garbage he is in Edmonton, and everybody hates him and they want him gone. What I do know is that they're both just goalies. That's it. They're not superstars. They're not horrible, but they're just your basic kind of run-of-the-mill type goalies. Both are more than capable of standing on their heads when they need to. Both are more than capable of also destroying a fan base's hopes and dreams, because that's just how they play. They're not elite. They're not Hellebuck. They're not Shesterkin. They're not Vasilevsky. They're not Sorokin. They're not even, Logan Thompson, Ottinger, Bobrovsky, they're not even that tier. They're just in the rest. And the crazy part is if you compare them across the board. So Jarry's been in 102 games. He's got a 900 save percentage. He's a minus 4.3 goals saved above average. If you look at Skinner, he's been in 133 games, 899 save percentage. So 1 point different. And he's a minus 6.1 goals saved above average. So he's got like a 793 save percentage on high danger shots in all of those situations. And Jarry's at a 797. So they're virtually the same goalie when you compare them across the board. And so, Jarry has advantage, I guess, because he's playing better at the moment. And he's played better since his return from his little waiver wire trip last year. Because if you remember, the Penguins put him on waivers and sent him back down to the AHL. That was in the middle of last season. He's been a better goalie since then, and he's played really well. In fact, just lately, he's played really well. But, what does that mean in the long term? I don't know. Is it sustainable? I don't know. Most of his ups from experience last 10, 15 games max, and then his lows are very low. And he's like a typical goalie where he gets in his head because goalies are crazy and, things happen. But, I don't know. I just like you go back over both of their careers and the things that and everything else. And Jarry's been on the team forever, but you look at Skinner and he's been their goalie, took him to 2 Stanley Cup finals. But again, he's basically hovered closer to league average for most of his career. So it's like Jarry's got high peaks, but low valleys. And Skinner's kind of here most of the time overall. So I don't know. I mean, save percentage ain't what it used to be in the league. But I think at the end of the day, the Penguins are getting a comparable goalie. But the key here, I guess, is no long-term commitment because Jarry was on a long contract that's fairly expensive for the type of goalie that he is. But I think what this is it paves the way to wipe out a position on the team at some point and paves the way for the new goaltenders because they have Shilovs, who's also a serviceable goalie, and they have Murashev, who's outstanding. He just needs some seasoning. I mean, that guy's got flashes of flurry. So the good kind, not the bad kind. But I don't know. I think Jarry will do well in Edmonton. I mean, that's his hometown. He used to play for the Wheat Kings back in the day. So, I mean, it's where he's from. So I think he'll be fine. Yeah. What I say? I said Wheat Kings. The Oil Kings, I meant.
That's in Manitoba.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So,
Brandon Wheat Kings is not what I meant.
Yeah,
the Oil Kings is what I meant. They're both Kings. But, yeah, so I think he'll be okay up there. And Edmonton got rid of a polarizing goalie. So, maybe people will shut up and stop talking about it. I don't know. But it's certainly here's the thing. Skinner's certainly not going to excel with the team that's playing currently in front of him. A team that has, all go for 40 minutes and will put up 6 points for 40 minutes, but then forgets that a hockey game has 3 periods instead of 2 and gives up 6 goals in one period. So, they're that team. So I don't know. It's a wash. Right now it's a wash to me. That's as a Penguin fan and as you called me, the insider. Yeah, that's what I'm going to call this. It's a wash.
How about the other trade? Quinn Hughes was traded to Minnesota. Both these trades happened on the same day. They both happened on December 12th. So it's funny because when I'm like, well, what should we talk about in the next podcast? And you were like, oh, we should talk about the big trade that happened today. And I was like, big trade. I thought you were being sarcastic and talking about the Jarry for Skinner trade. So I was just like chuckling to myself, like, yeah, okay, the big trade. And then I saw that Quinn Hughes was traded. I'm like,
I was
what?
being sarcastic because that was probably an hour or two before this one was announced.
Right. But then when I saw this one, I thought, oh, Tim wasn't being sarcastic. No, he doesn't do that. He was being serious about wanting to talk about Quinn Hughes getting traded to Minnesota. So,
yeah, finally an actual hockey trade.
Well, I mean, the trades happen all the time, and I still think the goalie trade was significant enough that we talked about it because, I mean, these are two notable goalies, even if they're not great goaltenders. This wasn't like a minor league trade, like prospect for pick or prospect for prospect.
We don't often get a lot of trades like that prior to Christmas.
Right. It's usually teams trying to fix things after Christmas break.
At
where
the trade deadline. Yeah.
Even just saying it's January and we're 10 points out of playoff contention and we need to do something. And then that's when they fire the coach, make a trade, do something, right? It's usually, like after the new year, right? Where they kind of get that reality check and they go, oh no, we got season's almost halfway over. We gotta do something.
So the fact you get two polarizing goaltenders traded for each other and 4 days later are against each other in a game, that's kind of crazy. But then this happens, the Quinn Hughes thing.
Yeah. So, all right. So the Wild get Quinn Hughes and the Canucks get Marco Rossi, Zeev Boyum, Liam Ogren, and a round 1 pick in the 2026 draft. I don't know if that is a top 10 protected or not. And it's like, well, it's a round 1 pick is a round 1 pick, but I guess sometimes they have, they can defer it, but it didn't say it was deferred. So I guess it's just a round 1 pick. So,
so essentially 3 first rounders.
Yeah. Was Rossi a first rounder?
Yes.
And Boyum?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, okay, we got a great defenseman getting traded. He still has over a year on his contract, so it wasn't like he's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. He's going to be a free agent at the end of next season. And Hughes is also the team captain. So, wow. I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, like, I'm trying to give like a comparable, like I'm trying to think of like the last time a defenseman of this caliber was traded. But I don't want to think of anything. I think Dion Phaneuf, but I think he signed with the Maple Leafs. I don't think he was traded to the Maple Leafs, but I remember Phaneuf going to Toronto was kind of a big deal. And of course, Chelios, he was the captain of the Canadiens, Chris Chelios, when he got traded to Chicago. So, and that was kind of a big deal. And I don't think Scott Stevens was captain of the Blues. He might have been the captain of the Blues when he went to New Jersey, but that wasn't a trade. That was compensation for a free agent signing. Long story. But what I'm saying, though, is this is a pretty big deal. I think what surprised everybody is I think we all thought that Quinn Hughes was just going to bide his time with Vancouver until he could sign as a free agent in New Jersey to play with his brothers. But instead, he went to Minnesota, and it's kind of interesting. And then also, like, is he gonna re-sign with Minnesota? I mean, would they have made the trade if they didn't think they had a chance of re-signing him? Because they gave up a lot. Even if they get him for a year and a half, they gave up a lot to get him on their team. So, or maybe the Hughes brothers become free agents and then they sign with Minnesota. I don't know. Or maybe they just never play together because that would just be too awesome. Kind of like when the Stahl brothers played together. Was it in Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. That was awesome. Or like when the Plager brothers in the 70s, before my time, when they all played together on the Blues. That was awesome.
Look, I think this trade kind of shocked the hockey world because anytime you move a superstar player, and let's be honest, Quinn Hughes is a superstar type player, there's talk, and there's been talk around this for a while because Vancouver is a dumpster fire. And I'm sorry for any Vancouver fans, but if you are a real fan, you will agree they are a dumpster fire. And I think Vancouver got a lot of value here out of this trade because it became perfectly clear that Quinn Hughes was not going to re-sign with them. And he even said that as much prior to Thanksgiving. So once they knew that, they knew they had to do something. And apparently, all the rumors were he's going to New Jersey. He's going to play with his brothers. And apparently the Devils, the Wings, the Sabres, the Hurricanes, the Rangers were all in on this. They all made legitimate offers to the Canucks. But the Flyers and Capitals were chirping too, because the Capitals need help on the back end if they expect to win anything else, and before Ovechkin disappears. But neither of them wanted to give up any assets. Like, they wanted young players in return that they could build off of and surround themselves with. And neither of those teams were willing to give anything up. So it came down to the Devil. It basically came down to the Devils and the Wild at that point. And the Devils couldn't clear cap space. So once that was figured out, it was kind of like, all right, well, what do we need to do to get this done? I don't know if you saw Bill Guerin's press conference about it afterward. And they were like, when did you know that this was going to happen? Like, when did you find out? All this kind of stuff. He's like, you want me to be honest with you? We were having our holiday meal and I was making meatballs. And I'm like, I had my gloves on and I'm rolling the meatballs and I'm making the meatballs. And the phone rang and it was Jimmy on the phone. Of course, Jim Rutherford. And, he's just like, so I had to take my gloves off and clean up my hands and take the call and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, that's what I knew. And so, like I think they said on the TNT broadcast tonight, they're like, they were picturing the scene from Goodfellas where they're like cutting the cutting the garlic with the razor blade and that kind of cooking scenario. But look, Bill Guerin's not afraid to do stuff. He's been trying to do stuff there. Look, when he bought out those contracts when he first got there, people said he's nuts. Like, they're never going to recover from that. He just paid Kirill the Thrill like the highest contract of any NHL player ever, to stay there essentially for forever. So, he's not totally out there when it comes to this stuff. But I don't know if you saw Quinn's first game against Boston, he scored. Of course, the crowd's going crazy, and social media for the Wild, they put "Welcome to Quinnesota," which I thought was pretty funny. But and they won 6-2. So look, you got a Norris Trophy winner in 2004. He was a finalist 2 straight seasons. He's since 2002, he's second only to Cale Makar in points for a defenseman. So
Who are we talking about here?
Quinn Hughes.
You said 2002 and 2004?
22.
2020. Okay, sorry.
Maybe I said
No, I thought you were bringing up like an older player, like you were going to
2024. You got that, and then since 2022, he's only Cale Makar is ahead of him in points. So, but Canucks are going nowhere. They're in the middle. They have to do a rebuild, and he was going to walk away as a free agent in the summer of 2027. So, they had to do something, and I think this is the best they were able to get, considering the circumstance. And I like Marco Rossi. He's a great player. Liam Ogren's a great player. Zeev Buium, another great player. So I mean, they've got a lot of that's a lot of talent to put on your team to bring up through for potentially winning in the future. So I think that's good. I don't like the fact that there's no guarantee that he's not going to sign in Minnesota, but if Minnesota makes a run, I bet it might happen. I think it's funny when they asked him, they're like, so when did you find out? Well, he kind of already knew that it was going to happen. But when they got to the East Coast, that's basically when they told him, and he just essentially got off the plane and drove to his brother's. I mean, that's what he did. And that he waited to get picked up by the Wild. I think Bill Guerin went and picked him up himself. That's why they were talking in the news all about how he left all of his equipment in New Jersey.
Mm,
Well, it's because it was in his brother's car.
right.
Because that's where he got picked up. So all of his bags and stuff were like left in the car. But
Yeah, they made it kind of sound like he thought he
Like-
was going to New Jersey.
yeah, it's really not what
Right.
happened, but still. Yeah. I mean, Vancouver fans should be happy about that, at least getting that. Not happy, of course, about losing probably arguably your best player, but and anytime you lose a top defenseman, that sucks. But we'll see how this plays out.
Oh, real
I
quick, just
think-
want to interject. Speaking of that sucks. So the game that was going on now between the Oilers and the Penguins have ended with the Oilers winning 6-4. So that wasn't quite the goaltending duel that we thought it would be. It wasn't the 32 save, 34 save, 1-0 goaltending duel that came down to the shootout. It was kind of a blowout by today's standards. I mean, on both sides. I mean, 6-4.
Certainly a better result than what I called in the beginning. I said it was going to be 9-2.
Oh, I thought it was going to be 9-8. I thought the love would be going both ways, but yeah, I guess 9-2 would also work. Who would get the 9?
Oh, the Oilers, of course.
Oh, yeah. Especially shooting against their old goalie, right? They're going to know his tendencies a little bit, right? Maybe. So, I don't know. But yeah, so the Oilers lit up their former teammate, scoring 6 goals on him. So, yeah. I don't think the Penguins are going to win it all this year.
We'll see. It's still a long season.
Yeah. Samantha, any thought on this trade before we move along?
Yeah, no, I was kind of curious about what this could do to Quinn Hughes's card values because and we know defensemen don't do well in the hobby, but I still think he's going to a better market, Minnesota, better team, and if they make a playoff run, I think you can see because there's been a lot of speculation early on all the Hughes brothers, all their rookie cards were doing very well, Young Guns cards, because of the speculation. Then things cooled off, of course. But I wonder if, like Tim said, if they go on a run, Minnesota does, and he sticks around, it could increase his values. It could increase his collectability. One of the things I really dislike about the hobby, and not just the hockey hobby, but just every sport, there's really just 2 or 3 or 4 players that everybody gravitates to. And I just wish there was more love spread out across different positions, but also different players. And I feel like Quinn Hughes, like Jack Hughes, are players that are very talented, very good, and often don't get any hobby love. And maybe to get some hobby love, you have to really go deep in the playoffs or win the Stanley Cup. And even if they do that, it's temporary. But, I think Minnesota fans and collectors will really gravitate towards his stuff if he does well.
I think that like with hobby love and players that play on Canadian teams. So, of course, Quinn Hughes in Vancouver is going to be collected in Vancouver, but outside of the city, it's kind of hard, right? Like, right. I would more likely, just me selling at a show, if I had, say, like a Cale Makar card, people would want that. Although he's cooled off since the Avs won the cup, but still, like if I have something Cale Makar is a player that people will ask me for. Adam Fox is a player that people will ask me for. And me being in Chicago, so of course I'm going to get like people asking, oh, do you have any Duncan Keith or do you have any Kevin Korchinski, right? Like, they want like the current Blackhawks or the former Blackhawks. So just kind of like that outside appeal. People will say, do you have any Adam Fox? Do you have any Cale Makar, but they wouldn't say
people ask for Adam Fox even this year.
Well, maybe not this year because he's been hurt, but just
that's why I said.
Well,
people are fickle.
No. But what I'm just saying though is just like if it's a good player on a U.S. team, it's going to sell a little easier than if they're a good player on a Canadian team. Of course, the exceptions are Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, right? Like,
because they're stars in their own right, but like you have a good player. Yeah, you have a good player playing Calgary. forget it. It's only going to be popular in Calgary and nowhere else.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right. So maybe by Hughes going to Minnesota, it's gonna and especially it just rejuvenates his play. I mean, he's got 1 goal in 1 game so far, which is nice. And I mean, that's what you'd hope for as a player, right? Like if I get a goal a game, I'll get 80 goals this season, right? But
Right.
I feel that yeah, that definitely raises his profile a bit. And Minnesota's kind of in a weird place, I think, in the hierarchy of NHL teams and in the hobby, because if he goes to the New York Rangers, that raises his profile that much more, right?
It's a big market. It's a big market.
It's a big market, but Minnesota is the state of hockey. Hockey is huge in Minnesota, right? I feel like Minnesota should be seen at that same level as Detroit and Chicago and New York. You know what I mean? I feel the same way about Pittsburgh, and maybe Pittsburgh is, but when I just think of those top tier teams, and it's just okay, if this player goes and plays for Ottawa, perfect example. When the Blackhawks traded Alex DeBrincat to Ottawa, that crashed the desire for his cards, at least in Chicago. But now that he's on Detroit, I see people kind of starting to buy his stuff again. You know what I mean? Because he's on an American team. Now, he's not a superstar player, but I'm just giving a recent example in my mind, right? The marketplace absolutely does matter where the player lands. And I feel that Minnesota should be seen as one of those teams that's upper tier and not mid-tier.
Yeah, and you're right, Minnesota is mid-tier, but it's more media market than hockey market, I think. Media market is still king, meaning that New York is a huge media market, like LA, but I wouldn't call LA a bigger hockey town than Minneapolis, but it is what it is,
right.
or St. Paul. Minnesota is a hockey state, just like Vancouver and Calgary are both great hockey towns, but media market wise, they might as well be in the North Pole for most people because most Americans couldn't tell you where,
especially
for Americans, they couldn't tell you where those cities are
because we don't have hockey coverage on TV 24/7 like they do in Canada.
Right, exactly, and we don't know geography, so that doesn't help.
Well, yeah, most Americans don't.
That too.
I mean, it's the same argument about West Coast too with any sport. The East Coast doesn't give love to the West Coast because by the time they're playing and
they're going to bed.
It's the first inning or the first period or the first quarter or whatever. The East Coast has already gone to bed because they got work tomorrow. So it's
10:30 p.m. Right.
You're all these superstars that people talk about out west. The Sharks are so much fun to watch, but I don't find myself often wanting to stay awake until 1 o'clock in the morning watching a hockey game.
Yeah.
So.
And you're in the Central Time Zone, right, Tim?
I am.
Yeah, I mean, I could stay up a little later because I tend to teach in the afternoon, so I could, I don't have to get up first thing in the morning. And yeah, I love those. I love the East Coast, West Coast thing. I mean, 6:30 Rangers game and then a 9:30 Sharks game. I'm sold on that idea, or a Blackhawks game followed by, tuning into a Sharks game or Kings game or Ducks game, maybe in the second period after the Central Time Zone game ends. Yeah.
That's fine if you can.
Yeah. If you can, right.
The people that work, 9 to 5 jobs or 8 to 5 jobs or whatever. I mean, if you want to stay up that late and sleep 3 hours, great, cool.
Oh my God.
Some of us need at least 4 hours.
I remember the back in the day Sports Channel when the games were on Sports Channel?
Yes.
So they'd show sometimes they'd show a game at 6:30 and then they would, if they had a West Coast game to show at 9:30, they would show that game. But if they didn't, sometimes because Sports Channel didn't have a whole lot of other stuff, sometimes they'd show a game on tape delay. And I remember I watched whatever game it was at 6:30, but then the 9:30 game was a tape delay between the Penguins and the Canadiens. And you had Patrick Waugh and Mario Lemieux. And my mom's like, go to bed. I'm like, no, I got to watch this game. I was up till 12:30. I don't even remember who won that game, but I remember just being so freaking excited because I loved Patrick Waugh and I loved Mario Lemieux and getting to see them both. And this is back in the day where there was no DVR and you couldn't watch.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
Sal, I was going to say, you gave away your age by saying two things: sports channel and tape delay. But
people know my age. I'm not. It's not like a big secret.
I know we're
I
all
talk
the
about
same age.
freaking pro set cards for Christ's sakes. I mean,
no talking about when we record, the time, the place, or ages. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next podcast we'll have masks on. No, but what I'm saying is that you're right. Before technology, you could watch a game like that and not know the score, and now you could never get away with that because there's a crawl all the time and there's phones and all that. But yeah, the mystique is gone. But no, I but it's interesting. I think what we're talking about is a bit of a tangent. We're talking about hockey markets, and I always wonder, does a young player want to get drafted and play for the Sharks in San Jose, which is not really a hockey town, even though there's a robust fan base? Or do you want to go to Vancouver, or do you want to go to Calgary? And I don't want to pick on those two teams because I can say the same thing about Buffalo here in New York State. You go there, it's like a graveyard. You go there and your career is going to die, or no one's going to know who you are. You could be the best player out there. Just ask Eichel, right? Jack Eichel. So, I mean, and you can leave that market, win a Stanley Cup, and you're still not going to be the guy. So,
they fired Kevin Adams finally, so Kekalainen's in charge now.
Yeah. So, I mean, they win the Stanley Cup, sure. Then that might discuss my argument falls apart. But that's a big if, right? If a team like Buffalo or Vancouver can win the Stanley Cup,
they're still a long way from there. But yeah,
exactly.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and so I'm talking about the hobby in general. It gravitates towards the big markets, and then if you look at even when the national takes place or the big regional shows, they take place near big urban centers like the White Plains show. It's all Ranger stuff. You go to Chicago Sports Spectacular, people want Blackhawk stuff, or they maybe Detroit stuff, Midwest stuff. It's really, even when you go to the Expo, they have everything, but it's really heavy on Maple Leafs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing. Now, if you go to some small show in Vancouver, well, I'm sure with 100 tables, yeah, they're all going to want Canuck stuff, but that's a very small pool to be swimming in, and that's not enough to move the needle nationally or across North America. It tells you a little bit about how great someone like McDavid is because the numbers he puts up. Because if McDavid was just an average player or even above average a little in Edmonton, he wouldn't get a lot of notice. But he's so much above the average and, is MVP every year and is an extraordinary talent that he breaks out of that. He might as well be playing anywhere. It doesn't matter. But ask most people, do they watch McDavid on the regular? And they're going to say, no, they don't. I don't. I wish I did, but I just don't.
Let's talk about what's going on in Italy with their hockey rink for the Olympics.
Or what's not going on, maybe.
Or what's not going on, right? Is that Milano Cortina? Is that how you say it, Clemente?
Yep, it is.
You speak the most Italian in the group, so I just wanted to make sure.
I do, yes.
I speak Italian, too. Spaghetti, mostaccioli.
Oh, jeez.
He speaks food.
He speaks food. Food is the universal language.
That's right.
Anyway, so so they're building this rink, which that's I guess sometimes you got to do that, right? You can't always have the Olympics in a place where they just have hockey rinks. But so they've started building this 16,000 seat rink in December of 2023, but the construction's been going really slow on it. Gary Bettman has said that it's disappointing. And he also said it's never been this late for completion in the building of ice, which is kind of an awkwardly worded quote. This building of ice. It almost sounds poetic, right? Like
that's probably why it's not being built. It's melting. That's the problem. It's made of ice. No. But.
Oh, well, no, I meant like this building of ice sounds poetic. Like, heed my words and you shall earn a building of ice upon which we shall procure championships for our grandchildren or what, I don't know. Right. But so the big concern is the ice quality. Of course, also the completion date, because I've been looking around a little bit on this, and I keep getting, I don't want to say conflicting reports, but first they were going to have it ready to test in January. Well, first they wanted to have a test in December, and then no test in December, and then the test in January. Now they're saying that the completion of the rink is going to be February 2nd. Of course, that's 3 days before the women's competition, which starts on the 5th of February, and the men's competition, which starts on February 11th. And I actually wasn't really too concerned about the fact that the rink is not quite NHL sized. It's a little bit shorter and just a little bit wider, right? Like it's seems like it's about 4 inches wider, and it's about about 3 feet, 3 feet and a few inches, not as long, right? It's 196.85 is the number. I don't even know how that translates to inches, but we'll just say 196 by 85.3 inches, or 85.3 feet. So,
well, they're blaming the whole thing on the conversion of meters and feet. So, which
they should have just put it all in centimeters, right? Like just 30 centimeters makes a foot, right? So you take 200, you multiply it by 30, you take 85, you multiply it by 30. Done.
Wait, Tim, you're saying the confusion is that the Americans are talking in feet and the Europeans are talking in meters?
I don't know. The rumor was that the way the plans were written, there was confusion about converting it from the feet to meters or something like that, and they did the math, and this is how the math worked out, and whatever. I mean, they've already said if they're taking anything away from the ice, they're going to take it out of the neutral zone. So,
right.
I mean, that's
because if you're going to build a brand new arena, you can make the rink really as big or small as you want because you're starting from scratch. I mean, I'll just point out that the Olympics were awarded to Milan in 2019. So they had plenty of time to build new facilities. And I know when the cities bid for the Olympics, they have to show their plans. So they must have put in their bid book, hey, we build a new arena for hockey. And generally at the Olympics, the hockey arena also serves as like the short track speed skating arena, and also for figure skating. It often is in the same place. In other years, it's not been the same place. It's been a totally different building where they're just playing hockey all the time, because especially in those early rounds of the group stage games, there's a lot of games going on, like four a day. That's always a lot of fun to watch that, right? They're playing games constantly until you get to the knockout round and then whatever. So they have plenty of time to build this thing. And I can tell you, as someone who's Italian-American,
2 years from when they started.
Yeah, as someone who's Italian, I can tell you that between unions and culturally and all kinds of stuff, all the stereotypes you can think of, they're mostly true. That the work is very slow. People
as
don't
most
really,
stereotypes are.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say that, but in this case, it is true. There probably isn't any. You would think there's all this pressure to finish it. The other variable here that's new is that the NHL decided to send NHLers to the Olympics recently. Was that like a year ago, a year and a half ago? So it wasn't like in the original plan. Normally, it would be the International Ice Hockey Federation would be involved with this, and they are, but the NHL wouldn't be involved in this at all. And so I guess the sum here is that there's a possibility that the NHL can pull out here, right? And that opens up a whole other can of worms and expectations.
Yeah. Well, that's what Bill Daly said. He's like, if the ice ain't ready, we're not going. He's like, I'm not going to risk the health and safety of our players playing on ice that's crappy quality. And whether that's just an empty threat or not, I mean, what they're saying now is it'll be ready. They're like, trust us, it'll be ready. It's like, trust me, bro, it'll be ready.
There's pictures. There's like no roof though. I mean, that's like
the latest one. The latest video. There's a roof now.
Okay,
but it still looks pretty
raw
shape.
Yeah, rough, right?
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, we're 2 months out. This is where you're putting the finishing touches on things, and not.
You should be embroidering the back of the chairs at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is where you're like,
and there are no chairs. That's the problem.
Right.
There's no seats.
Yeah, embroidering the back.
Bring a folding chair if you're going.
Yeah, and from what I understand, something that I read earlier today, There were also problems when Italy hosted the Olympics in 2006 in Turin. They also had delays with building their rink. They had a couple of strikes and stuff like that, union problems.
Right.
So this isn't unprecedented, but
They should have just detoured the hockey competition to the arena in Turin, unless it got torn down, because that happens a lot at the Olympics too. They build stuff, and then within 10 years, it's like, yeah, tear this down. Nobody uses it. So it's totally possible. I mean,
yeah,
so,
that's the problem, because you need to have a rink that's big enough to hold enough people that you can make ticket sales. This just can't be at like your community, hockey rink where kids play, because
Right.
that's going to seat maybe 400 people at the most,
and not 10,000 or
and not
8,000.
10,000, and not make the ticket sales, and not be able to accommodate cameras and all those things. So you got to invest all this money for a rink, and then what happens after it leaves? I mean, this is kind of like that whole FIFA thing, right? With like the World Cup, where like a country will put all this money into building like this state-of-the-art soccer arena, and then nobody uses it after.
When the circus leaves town, then what happens, right? It becomes, and then often the Olympics, like the World Cup, are held in countries like Brazil and countries that are poorer, who are like, you could be building schools and hospitals as opposed to like a stadium that's going to be used for 5 games.
Right.
And it's like, it's great, but where are your priorities? And in this case, I mean, Milan is a world capital. Yeah. So I'm not, for the first time, the Olympics in a long time are being held in a place that financially doesn't have any issues, but these logistical issues do have a problem. I just want to bring it around to the cards again, which is, if you don't read the Puck Junk newsletter, you should get it. But the Sal had a piece in there. There was a blurb about how Upper Deck had made a deal with U.S. Hockey, right? And so I have to think that Upper Deck is priming to get some Olympic cards going here, and they're laying the groundwork
Team
here.
USA,
yeah, at least for Team USA, because they already probably have a deal with Team Canada.
They got Team Canada, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
They
and
got
so
the big two.
Yeah, so if the NHLs don't go to the Olympics, that's huge in the sense that it's a huge miss, because it's like, oh, there was an opportunity here to create some products, some different cards, maybe game dated moments, whatever they want to do, which would be fun. And maybe you're right, Tim, it's an empty threat. But I can see how, as you get closer, the fear of injury, in the end of the day, you have to really protect the players, because they belong to the teams they play on in the NHL. The national team, Olympic team, that's extra. You can send junior players to that if you have to, like they have it for many years now. So I hope it all gets settled, because we really want to see NHL players at the Olympics again. I think it'll make the tournament much more fun.
Did you see the commercial?
Does this as a courtesy to their
What's
players.
that, Tim?
The NHL does this as a courtesy to their players, because they know their players want to play.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
But
they don't have
it's good marketing for the league too. I mean, globally, I think. But.
I think they kind of thought it would be, and I think we all thought it would be better marketing for the league. But if you look at like between 1998 and 2014, how much of the league's growth can we say is attributed to the Olympics, Winter Olympics?
I agree with you. I think if they just did the Four Nations thing every year, that'd be better for them than the Olympics, for sure. But they did that because they were trying to prime the pump here a little bit for the Olympics, right? Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I will always remember, like, if in my nightmares, Crosby's golden goal in 2010. But I mean, that was a hell of a game. That was a hell of a series. That was a hell of an Olympics. And of course, in 2014, TJ Oshie in the shootout, scoring all those goals. Was that against Bobrovsky against Russia? I mean, that was crazy. Like, there's some good stuff there that becomes stories that then kind of just get kind of folded into like the NHL, because when you talk about Sidney Crosby, of course, you're going to talk about his, winning 3 Stanley Cups.
It's like when Lundqvist won the gold. Yeah, it's like when Lundqvist won the gold medal, right, for Sweden. Like, same thing. Like,
it gets folded into their legacy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it becomes just part of that. And even though it's like, well, yeah, as an NHL player, he did all this stuff, but then you kind of get to also mention, and he also won this Olympic gold and scored this goal, this game-winning goal in the gold medal game or whatever, right? Whereas like when Wayne Gretzky played in the Olympics in 1998, and somebody said to him, "Did you ever dream about playing in the Winter Olympics?" And he said, "No, because if I was playing in the Winter Olympics, it means I wasn't playing in the NHL."
Right.
And now we can have that. We can have both. You could have the best players in the league or in the world play in the NHL and play in the Olympics. And so I get that the NHL is making this concession to the players. And I think it was probably wise of them to skip the Olympics in Korea and the Olympics in China. Although that was just kind of funny. I mean, just like,
Yeah, but the NHL has had
funny,
China
but-
series games, so it's not like they don't care about the Chinese market. I mean, you're saying that they skipped it because in Asia hockey isn't a thing, as opposed to Europe.
It was
or-
a time. Tim, back me
It
up
was
on
a-
this. The
Yeah, it was
time
a
zone
timing
thing.
thing. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was a timing thing. It was
And a facilities thing, because you
Yeah.
had the players had to like, it was like they were 3 hours away from the rink or something.
yeah.
Mm,
There was
They
some
didn't
sort
have
of,
the infrastructure set up to where it would be conducive to the normal training regimen of teams and the way that they do the things that they do, and it was a logistical nightmare is what it turned into. So
Mhm.
and that's the thing, if it's convenient, do it. If it's not convenient, well, they're going to step in and be like, yeah, we can't do this, we're not going to stop league play, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, but we all know, we all are clamoring for best on best. We want best on best. The players want it, the fans want it, and the only way we get it is with Olympic play. We came pretty darn close with 4 nations, but you don't have everybody. It's 4 nations. There's more than 4 nations. So I like to see some of those countries with teams that you're just like, how did they get a hockey team? I love to see like the underdogs, like Germany.
oh,
comes out of nowhere and,
2018.
Tosses people. It's like,
yeah,
that's the fun stuff.
right. Yeah.
Or was it Belarus that upset Russia in 2002? I'm trying to remember when Alexander Andreevsky, who was a Blackhawk prospect who didn't pan out, he ended up like scoring some like fluky goal that like eliminated like one of the big teams, like Russia or somebody.
But
that's
those former
2002.
Soviet republics, they're full of players. Maybe 1 or 2 play in the NHL, but then they have their own domestic hockey
Yeah.
league, which we don't know much about. But these are hockey playing countries. The other thing too
Right.
is when you mention China and South Korea, like the host nation has to have a team. So I remember I forgot what year it was. Maybe it was 94 in Lillehammer. Italy ended up having a team, and it was like all these Italian Americans or Italian Canadian players who basically were like, I'm a dual citizen. I mean, one guy played for Italy who's married to an Italian. He wasn't even Italian. He was Canadian. But he's like, oh, I married an Italian. I can get an Italian passport. I can play for Italy. Right. So you'll get some of that on some of these teams, because I don't think there are any Italians playing in the NHL, for example. So that team is going to be loaded with players who are just based in Europe, for example.
Yeah, I remember. I definitely remember the '92 Olympics because I was able to watch that a little bit more. They talked about that, and they talked about some of the guys that played in Italy or played for Italy were guys like, they were saying like how one guy, his wife's parents were born in Italy, so that was good enough for
He had
for
macaroni
them.
once at a restaurant, so he can play for Italy.
Or they played pro in Italy. And
Yes.
so, that was like, okay, so they gave them the citizenship so they could play. And then I even remember talking to some of the USA guys on the 92 team, and they talked about when they played against France, and they were just like, let me tell you, those were not French hockey players. Those were French Canadian hockey players who were able to get some sort of dual citizenship. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were like, no, we were playing Canadians, and with maybe, I know Philippe Bozan, who was from France, was on that team, and he ended up playing in the NHL. But like, they were just like, say, so they kind of like make those exceptions. Like if you look at the Chinese team that played in 2022, Chris Chelios's son Jake was on that team.
Well, the Italian team was coached up until I think 2 years ago by Mike Keenan, right? So the coach could be from
Italian or Russian?
the Italian team.
Okay.
So so you can. I mean, you could be coached by anybody. I mean, that doesn't matter.
Right, right.
They don't need to be a citizen. But I'm just saying, you bring in a foreign coach or former NHLer because then the federation's job is to try to get people to. Can we find French Canadians who are also French, of course, probably, and you can naturalize them, and that's how you pad out your team. So what Tim was saying about, but then sometimes there are upsets. You never know. So it's always fun to watch. Unfortunately, Russia won't be there. I think they're still under the, because of the war in Ukraine, they're still banned by the IOC. So that's the one team you would want to see, Ovechkin and those guys. But other than that,
It's going to be the same this year too.
It's exactly.
Over the summer, France and Italy both put out their, what do they do? Their first 5 or their first 6 of the players that were picked. Italy's got no one with any NHL experience.
Right.
And France has like Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is on the team, and like Alexander Tessier, I think, and that's it. The rest of the guys are no NHL experience. So.
Well, Bellemar's a good one. I mean, he's a solid NHL player, so yeah, you should be on that team.
But then you got your Swedens, Finland.
Yeah, you got your powerhouses.
You got the powerhouses. You got the United States, Canada, and then
did you guys see the commercial that they showed for the Olympics for Olympic hockey on NBC?
Oh no,
the one for Team USA.
Yeah, with Mike Sullivan
talking about the Canadian team.
Yeah, we're so it was it Mike Sullivan. He's the head coach. He's like firing up the players. He's like, all right, we're gonna go there and we're gonna bring back what our American fans want to see, or what our American fans want. And Brady Tkachuk, who's sitting out, they're in the locker room, he chimes in. He goes, "You mean Canadian tears?" And he's like, "No, not like Canadian tears." Yeah, that's what we want to bring back. I thought that was funny.
It's actually in the commercial. It's actually John Hamm that's in the.
It's John Hamm. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, that makes it even funnier because
he's like giving him a pep talk, and it's got like Tkachuk and Eichel and Matthews are all in there, and they're like laughing. So he's like, yeah, but Canada, I mean, they're all nice and they're polite and everything, and they all look at each other and just start laughing.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
if the U.S. can win the gold medal, then they could all visit Trump at the White House, just like the Miracle on Ice team recently did. I'm sure you guys saw that.
Gave him a cowboy hat. Okay, big topic. PSA Grading, or actually Collectors, the company that owns PSA Grading, but we're just saying PSA Grading, buys Beckett. Boom. So Collectors, the parent company of PSA Grading, purchased Beckett from Collectivist Holdings. So is that Collectivist for the rest of us? I can't be the only one who was thinking of that, right?
Well, you're also in the right season for it. So
yeah, Collectivist for the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
So Collectors now owns PSA.
That's the name of the episode, by the way.
What?
That's the name of the episode.
Collectivists?
It's for the rest of us.
So this company that owns PSA now also owns Beckett Grading and SGC. And they own 3 of the biggest grading companies. Collectors also has the PSA Vault. They also have the Card Ladder. What do you call that? Not a grading app, a comping, like a lookup. What do they call those apps where you comp your cards? Is there a name for those yet? Huh?
Just a pricing app.
Pricing app, the Card Ladder pricing app. Thank you. That was very astute. And then I guess that leaves CGC as the only company not owned by Collectors. And now, Tim, you mentioned you want to talk about some of these grading statistics, because I think this is really telling.
I mean, what you got on the screen are just the November gem rates. And for those that don't know what gem rate is, it just tracks how many cards were graded by the major grading companies. But you look at this, PSA did 1.66 million cards in the month of November, and that's with a Thanksgiving break in there. So just in the month of November, that's what they're pulling down. And the next closest to them is CGC with 425,000. Now, we all know, or most people I shouldn't say we all know because we don't all know, but a lot of people familiar with grading know that CGC does a lot of trading card game grades, like a lot. I mean, PSA does too, but
like Pokemon and stuff.
CGC does a lot more. So Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, that kind of stuff. I'm sure Disney's what is it?
Lorcana.
Yeah. I'm sure that takes a chunk now too. But 425. So you look at that compared to 1.66 million, it's a fraction, right? You got Beckett on there at 74,000. You got Tag on here, which Tag's been popping up lately, 39,000, and SGC, which collectors already bought, and essentially PSA is turning them in. Well, they were going to turn them into a boutique grader, but essentially the president of the company stepped down, and the president of PSA is now the president of SGC also, in addition to both. And you can clearly see they're falling off. SGC, for those that don't know, they call them the tuxedos. Those are the ones that are graded with the black, kind of the black edge,
and mostly vintage,
frame.
right? Mostly vintage.
A lot of vintage, yeah. You'll see a lot more vintage that are done. There's Sal's holding one up.
Yeah. So when you say, I wanted to ask you, what do you mean by they wanted to turn them into a boutique grading? What did that mean exactly? Did they even say it? Because I saw that quote, but I couldn't infer what they meant.
Specialty. Like you're sending them unique things, stuff that's different, make them be the one that you go to, like, hey, I have this odd shaped card, or I have this, oddball one that we don't have in a normal database. It'd be something that they would do outside of the realms of the massive thing. So they're not going to be doing the 1.66 million. They're going to be doing the 35,000 other unique ones that are.
So that's why the number is so small, right, Tim? Because that's a small number.
Yeah, because honestly, it's hard to not look at this and say that they're just trying to sunset that as a brand.
Right. It feels that way.
So the concern here then is for all of the Beckett lovers out there, that this 74,000 that's keeping Beckett in third place. Again, keep in mind that's just November. What are they going to do? The announcement said that they're going to keep them as a separate company. They're going to operate separately. They're going to be their own entity, and it's just going to be business as usual. But come on.
But isn't the goal then to say, you know what? We're going to phase out Beckett, but we're going to use their employees and the facilities to grade PSA.
There you go. Because what's one of the major things that people complain about PSA?
Too slow.
The turnaround time
takes too long.
Right.
Turnaround time is forever. And it's
not enough locations, blah, blah, blah.
Like there's so much volume here. Look at the volume comparison just in a month.
It's a lot.
Like they took SGC. If they're going to make it a boutique, then why did they turn around and basically pilfer the entire staff to handle the PSA work instead? They brought everybody over to do that.
They need manpower and expertise.
Because they need manpower and expertise. That's exactly what they want. So volumes for them have basically jumped off a cliff. And now they're saying they're going to keep Beckett separate. The operations are separate, all that. What resource does Beckett have the collector wants? I mean, you kind of mentioned it when we were talking before the show, Sal, and I think it's probably on your next slide. Like, yeah, what is resource do they want? Do they want the online price guide? Do they want the magazine? Do they want their comic book side of the business? Do they want their marketplace? Like, what is it they want? Because think about it. Over the years, we've had the online, the magazine, of course. We all know the fate of the magazine, right? Does the magazine still exist? Yes.
Yes.
Is it relied upon for anything other than popping a few articles out here and there? Probably not.
The truth is,
people don't look at the price guide.
No.
People don't use the online price guide.
No.
A lot of people that I knew that were doing collecting that used to keep their collection on the Beckett online price guide, where you used to be able to add stuff to your collection so you could see what the values were. I mean, we've been in that situation or we've been in that place where these numbers haven't been relevant for years, right, or gone to and relied upon for years. So that's out. The comic book thing, I mean, there's plenty of other ways they can go about that. The signature review, I mean, PSA obviously has their own,
right?
Whether or not they bring it on and it's more efficient than it was, I don't know. The marketplace thing, what does PSA need that for?
Well,
what
the
does
marketplace
Collect need that for?
Marketplace used to be a real thing, but I think PSA doesn't need that. And the truth is that you don't need any of this. So basically, all this, if I'm PSA, I would get rid of all this, or at least the magazine, I would get rid of it, because I mean,
exactly.
it's only going to cost you money to produce this thing, and the advertising is not worth it. You can make another deal. I mean, you don't need to. So
let me.
And that's my point. What resource do they have?
Why they
have qualified graders and additional staff that they can move over and start doing the work that they're backed up on.
And this is,
I don't see what else it is.
Yeah.
So so two things I just want to interject really quick. The first thing is that little over, maybe about a year ago, I talked with somebody at PSA at Collector, and one of the things I brought up was SGC grading. It was for an article that I wrote. This actually didn't end up going in the article, but he basically said to me, we're going to leave that alone. It's going to be its own thing because it has its own customer base. Now, obviously, things can change in a year. SGC is never at shows. So I held up one of my cards earlier. It's a 1933 O-Pee-Chee Howie Morenz card. And I have some cards that are graded, and they're graded by SGC. And I really like the looks of these. And I have some other cards from the 30s that I wanted to grade. I don't want to mail them. I'd rather drop them off at a show. SGC is never at a show. And I don't even care what grade I get. I just want them to all be in the same type of holder so that they look the same. But then also it just kind of gives us like that baseline. Like, okay, they said it's a 1. Maybe I'll argue that this grade should be a 2. But the thing is that we know it's not a 10, right? It's a 1, maybe it's a 1.5, maybe it's a 2 on a good day, right? If you squint or whatever. But we know this is not a Gem Mint 10. That's fine, but I don't really care. It's for my own collection. And I emailed SGC and I said, I know a couple of years back, I emailed them. I said, are you going to be at the National? And they said, yes, but then they weren't. And I think that was around the time they got bought. So maybe it was a year ago. I can't remember. And then I know that now they don't set up anymore. So I'm always looking for them because, again, I got maybe 15 cards I want to get graded. I don't want to mail them in if I can avoid that, right? Even if I could pay for like end of show because it's SGC, it's not PSA, I'd almost be okay with that just to save on the shipping or whatever. Maybe not, but you get my point, right? So they've kind of just been kind of like just pushed aside, which we know what we kind of knew was going to happen. Because that's what companies always say when they buy another company. They say, oh, well, it's still an important part of our business, but then they start looking for ways to, like, oh, this is costing a lot of money. What can we cut? Which brings to my second point with Beckett. And if you're Beckett and you're Beckett Media, you want to try to keep as many of these things going as you can because you're trying to increase your market share. You're trying to increase your reach. So even if your magazines don't make you money, if there's Beckett magazines at Barnes and Noble and people are aware of you, oh, okay, hey, Beckett, oh, baseball cards. Yeah, maybe I'll grab a magazine, right? And they get back into it. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but what I'm saying is that you kind of want all of these things going. If a company like PSA comes in and buys Beckett, they don't need the magazines. The magazines aren't going to help PSA grow. They might help Beckett grow, but at this point, I don't think they're really looking to make Beckett grow. They're just looking what resources can we mine from this company that we acquired. And so you guys are absolutely right. The magazines have got to go. Those have got to go. There's no way they're making money on these magazines. They give no, okay, not to say, oh, well, hey, Clemente and I, we write for Sports Collectors Digest, but you know what Sports Collectors Digest has that Beckett doesn't have?
Well, they have articles to the end of the magazine, not
Articles.
just not
They
5
have
pages.
freaking articles. Like, you want to read the thing cover to cover. Of course,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ads to skip, but you know what? Because
That
cards
pays the
have had
bills.
this, well, yeah, it pays the bills, but that's fine. But you know what? Because COVID has brought this renaissance into the card market again. When I started writing for SCD back in 2017, it was mostly black and white with maybe 8 color pages. Now the whole damn thing is color, cover to cover, because they can afford to, because people are buying the magazine. The companies are advertising in the magazine. People like myself and Clemente write quality articles, not to brag, but we're good writers. We write good stuff. You know what I mean? I remember at the tail end of around the time I was writing for Beckett and I was still subscribing to them, a lot of the stuff that they would publish was called BOMB, Best of the Message Boards, or BOMB. And they would just take conversations that people had on the message boards and reprint it in their magazine. Like, this is what people are saying about the new Upper Deck Series 2 hockey cards. And it's like, wow, you just basically copied and pasted.
Yeah, it was like Beckett is like the tagline should be a magazine for people that don't have the internet, which is nobody, because that's all it is. It's basically like a regurgitation of what we've already seen, not enough pages of it. And then the rest of the magazine, as you guys know, is just stock tables, basically, which nobody publishes anymore, not even newspaper, because you can find that stuff on eBay and all over the place on the internet and all these pricing apps that Tim mentioned.
Type is tiny and it's just hard to.
And the prices don't mean anything because they fluctuate constantly. So those are a month old, and maybe they were never accurate, and maybe they were never accurate in the 90s either. We just didn't know any better because there was no source. So we mentioned the magazine because that's the most people think Beckett. They think the magazine, and then they think a little bit about. They think about the grading company that came later. But I think Tim is totally right. This is a play to pick up the grading services to bolster that, and the rest of this stuff is a money drain for them. And the unfortunate part I want to mention before we move on is that there aren't enough people coming into the hobby to invest and to buy companies. It's always the same 3 or 4 companies that buy everything up. And so as a result, you just get monopolies now. Fanatics owns, 50% of the market. Now PSA folks own another 40% of this chunk. And before you know it, there's all this controls over prices and over values, and there's nobody to oversee any of this. And that's really the troublesome part, I think, for the collector.
Look, there's multiple layers to all of this. Like, we've been watching this unfold in real time for a while. And I think we've all said before on this show and elsewhere that we hoped that somebody would come in and save Beckett, even if it's just for nostalgia's sake, because there weren't many, and there still aren't many hobby publications out there that will print and talk about the hobby. Now, you could say, well, there's this website and that website. Okay, fine. But again, it might be a nostalgia thing. So we hope somebody would come in and do it. I guess this is one of those cases where it's careful what you wish for, because, who was going to do that? You look at the play, like you said, you look at the players. Who's out there? Who's buying up everything? Collectors? Clearly. Fanatics? Did we want that? What if Fanatics bought Beckett? Now they have a grading company. Cool. Really? They already have everything else. So is that what we would want? Was there somebody else that was going to walk in and say, yeah, I'll pay whatever to help save this company or inject some more money into it? No, I don't think there was, because as both of your points were made, it's become an obsolete thing. And us old heads, they're like, yeah, we want to read the art. We get the magazine so we could just read the articles. Like, we're not the majority. We're not even in the sub majority. We're like in the very small minority, because that's not what it's about anymore. And the majority is on this other side. So, like, here's the way I look at it. If you're in this for the money, this doesn't change the conversation away from PSA being the go-to for maximizing your prices. But it's the optics, it's the perception, and quite frankly, it's the marketing thing that got latched onto by all of the minions that are out there that are now completely out of control in supporting this company and everything that they do. And it's every week there's something else that comes out about them doing shady stuff, and everybody yells and screams about it for 2 or 3 days, and then it's all forgotten because you have all the proponents that have the channels and have the viewers and have the backing and the support that come to their rescue, say, oh yeah, they're not that bad. This isn't really what's going on. Don't look over here. Ignore the guy behind the curtain. You know, that's what always happens. So here's the winner, right? You want the winner? They might be the loser, but they could be the winner, depending on how they handle this. CGC. If you're CGC right now, are you happy? I would think you'd be happy, because you could take every opportunity to push your market share forward at this point because of all of the issues that are going to arise because of this, or backlash, and so on and so forth. What's the first thing they did after this announcement was made? Did you guys see?
No.
CGC announced a price hike. Very first thing. Now, it was $1. It was $1. It amounted to like $1, but still. Now look, CGC, if you like slabs, they have nice slabs. But again, they do a lot of TCG stuff. So apparently they also have a deal with Arena Club. I don't know a whole lot about that, but you know, their comic wing is huge. Like, comics are a big thing for them. People send in comics for grading. That's generally where they're sending them. So if they want to take over this market share that's going to be vacated by BGS, this is their big chance. So they're number 2 at 400 and some thousand versus 1.6 million. If they can pick up the other 75,000 a month that Beckett has, that will help them. You just have to get the people that are going to be willing to switch. And again, we've all seen this is about money. People go to PSA because it's going to turn your highest dollar, because the perception is that a PSA 10 is worth way more than anything else that you can get slabbed by any other company, because it has some kind of unwritten, infallible thing that's just become recycled over and over and over again. And, you know, again, it doesn't matter what this company does. You know, all that pushback from people about the whole regrading thing that came out a couple weeks ago and just came to a head because everybody was doubling down on it, saying, oh yeah, this is fine, you know, no, whatever, you know, all this kind of stuff. This is the company it's getting all the smoke pushed toward a company that's very first card they ever graded was trimmed. Let's not forget that. This is the company where their own CEO essentially admitted on social media that they miss counterfeits all the time. You know, you want to roll it into since we're more of a hockey show, you want to roll this into a hockey standpoint. I mean, not to get completely off topic here, but Fanatics Auction sold that McDavid RPA at the end of November for $264,000. It was in a PSA slab. It's PSA 10 with an auto grade of 10. This is the same one that's been going around for the last, 4 or 5 years. Purportedly been trimmed, been doctored up. It used to be in a BGS slab. It was an 8.5. There's a big chunk taken out of the corner of the card. And now then it suddenly shows up in a PSA slab graded a 10. And people are like, well, I don't know how that could have happened. And then they removed the cert from the card for a while. Then they put it back. Then they took it off again. And then all of a sudden it comes back out with a 10 grade and an auto grade. And then it turns around and sells for $264,000.
And just to
Mind
interject,
you,
this
in
is a
Fanatics,
numbered card.
it is a numbered card.
Serial numbered
In fact,
card. So it's not like there's a million of them out there. It's
Yep,
not a McDavid.
it's not like we're comparing
not a
apples
young
to
gun.
oranges.
Right.
It's number 23 out of 99. It's
Right.
the number 23 out of 99. It has a long history. In fact, you could see pictures of it front and back when it was in a BGS slab versus now front and back when it's in a PSA slab. And you could clearly see that the quarters don't line up. And the cup cards on the back, there's that striped design in the corner with all those lines, those parallel lines that are diagonal from the corners. They don't match up to where they were on the original card, which tells you what? It's probably trimmed, or at least somebody shaved something off of it. Plus that nick in the corner's gone. Where did it go? Somebody doctored it up somehow. Maybe they put paper back on it with Kurt's Card Care or whatever crap that's out there. But the problem, the whole point is there's question about all this. Fanatics sold it in their auction, never disclosed it. The consigner, who coincidentally was the same consigner that P. Ryan used that we talked about a couple weeks ago with the whole Dr. Beckett thing, who bid on his own auction because, we can do that. Yeah, it's the same company, the same consignment company. Consignment company came out and said, yeah, so people have been complaining about this card for years and years, but PSA graded it twice and never flagged it, so it must be fine. Because what PSA says, it's all good. That's all that matters, right? If PSA says it's fine, it's fine. So this is what I'm talking about. It's follow the money. Everybody follows the money. As long as it's making them money, they'll keep their mouth shut. They'll turn a blind eye to all of it. And that's just it's just where we are. That's where we are in all of this. I've never been a big proponent of grading. I frankly think grading is BS, and I think it's a scam, and it's a money-making thing to strip collectors of their money, and it makes fake perception of value and all of that stuff. And I've said that for years. I'll continue to say it until the end. But I understand people's desire. I understand people's want to do this, and that's fine. But let this be perfectly clear. Your options have shrunk exponentially because of this. And you may not care, and you may think it's going to be good for the hobby, but it will not. The more choice you take away from the hobby, the worse off collectors are. And we see it over and over and over again.
Tim, I agree with you, but I also think that if PSA hadn't come in, BGS would disappear, because I couldn't believe they were still in business, frankly. As a card grading company, the other stuff we mentioned, whatever, the magazine, everything else, that's a miracle, that's alive. But the grading part, if you saw their market share, it's been going down and down and down over the last 5 years easily. And so
yeah, and why is that? Well, they made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah,
they screwed up a lot.
Yeah,
and it let PSA basically we opened up the back door and they just came in. And
because you can tell when you're at the national in the corporate section, PSA has a pretty impressive booth every time. It's you can tell how big it is and what they do, what they don't do. It's and then does Beckett.
Dude, how much of that one pavilion was just them?
Yeah, it's basically it's them. It's basically the area between the autographs and the old time dealers. That whole.
You're talking about the national?
At the national, where there's that bump.
Yeah, the amount of space that they take up.
They're going to take up more space. They're actually going to also take up. Remember that center area where our friends Paul and Diane were? They're taking that area too.
Yeah, right. Because they're going to be bigger next year. They're going to take out basically 25 dealer tables probably to make room for them.
And I guess they're going to take over the Beckett tables too.
And that whole time we were standing there was that ear-piercing squelching sound of them like sealing those. Yeah, back in where they were sealing the slabs.
Right.
Oh God, that sound was so bad.
Is that what that sound was?
Yeah. I think it's their machinery grading cards.
Machinery in there.
Yeah. But I mean, look. So I mean, I guess someone would say, well, would it be better if BGS disappeared? And maybe the answer is no, but it might as well disappear, because if it's going to be bought over by a behemoth that's going to only grow larger as a result, then yeah, maybe it was better than BGS would just go away. But here we are in the hobby. We're in this place where it's in growth mode, seemingly, but it is the same 3-4 people that are buying everything. And that to me creates all kinds of issues and problems. And unfortunately, it doesn't diversify. And like you mentioned, it doesn't give us choices. It just limits us.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I've seen a lot of people, and most of you know by now, I'm not on X very much, if at all, anymore. But I have other sources of data, and I've seen a lot of people trying to say, "Oh, this isn't a monopoly. They don't own everything. There's still choices out there. You can go to Tag, you can go to Arena Club, you can go here, you can go here. CGC still exists." You now have over 75% of the market share. I'm not talking about the number that you're grading. I'm talking about the full on market share of what's available out there. If you're saying that this array that's on your screen right now of five graders is your options, there's a few more, but if this is what you're saying your major options are, the same company now owns 3 of them.
I think Beckett's big draw for the last few years is that they don't charge more based on the value of the card. And that to me was kind of a reason why when I got a few things graded a few years back, of course I paid pandemic prices, which sucked, but I had some cards that I wanted to get graded, and I just said, all right, you know what? I'm probably going to sell these, and I should just get a grade on them. And it was more about just having a grade because that's a baseline, right? Because I might look at this and say, it's mint, and someone might say it's VG. But then if Beckett gives it an 8.5, okay, well, maybe we can argue that it's a little higher or a little lower. But again, that kind of gives like that baseline. But they weren't charging on the sliding scale like, oh, that's a Gretzky rookie, we're going to charge more. Oh, that's a 10-cent pro set card, we're going to charge less, right? You know what I mean? Like Beckett just charged the same price regardless. And that was even something I've been seeing a lot of their ads on Facebook lately. And that's been the two things I've been seeing all week or all last week up until this purchase was home of the BGS black label, right? Like that's the thing, like home of the black label, right? They were really pushing that. And the other thing they were really pushing is we don't charge you different based on the value of the card. And so I feel like those two things could have been stuff that they could have pushed more, and they didn't. And I don't know, you know, and I guess that's the thing. Like if you have an advantage, you push it. And if their advantage is we charge you $10 a card, I know it's like $15 or whatever. But if they just, you know, show special pricing, $10 a card, doesn't matter if it's a Mickey Mantle rookie or you know, or a 5-cent common, right? So I don't know. I think that's part of, you know, they just didn't do, like you said, Tim, they made a lot of mistakes, and PSA walked in and just basically took over the market.
Yeah, and you want to do more of Tim's doom and gloom. Think about this. Let's say they do say that Beckett's going to be its own separate thing, and then give it the SGA treatment like they've done. They take the black label. Can you imagine what the cost is going to be to get PSA to put your card in a black label? If they're already charging you based off of value with their dynamic pricing, I mean, Beckett black labels run higher than a PSA 10. That's it. That's the only thing that does. So now you put a black label in a PSA slab. Now what are we talking? I mean, it's like an infinite amount of money.
It's like a 10 plus on a card.
Yeah, it's like you're going to be charging so much more money in order to get it in this black slab. Because again, we're talking about what value does Beckett give to collectors that they don't already have in all the other branding. I mean, that's really it. Black label and half grades. That's one thing that PSA and SGC and it doesn't.
Oh, the
don't have.
subgrades too.
Yeah, the subgrades, the half grades, and the black label. That's it. So if that stuff is IP, which I don't think it is, I mean, can you copyright whether you put a half a grade on something, or can you? PSA will do subgrades if you pay for it. They'll give you like the little chart that says this, that, and the other, but you have to pay for it.
Well, sometimes they do half grades because I have a Gretzky rookie that's graded 3.5. PSA 3.5. So there are some cases where they do that, half a point.
So obviously then it's not IP that's specific to Beckett.
Well, no, it's a number. I don't think you can copyright a number.
Right.
Like the number
Again,
7.
that's why I said I don't think that is IP. So they could have done this at any time, but here they are. So I don't know.
Well,
I guess I'm a little more negative on this whole thing because I see this as monopolistic behavior because they're controlling over 75% of the market. And when you don't give people options and the ability to go elsewhere, you really push close to like antitrust type stuff,
Yeah, but with no oversight.
That's the thing. There's no oversight. It's exactly it. No one's going to call. No one.
Right.
Unless there's 400 people at the freaking FBI that are all card collectors and they suddenly go,
right.
What?
Or someone sues somebody and becomes a big deal, but a class action thing or something, but no one's done that. So,
Nope.
So there is no oversight. It just happens.
Because despite all of this, and despite this world that we operate in and we enjoy and we love, and we're still going to love the hobby. We're still going to hobby the way we want. But this stuff is worrisome.
It's under the radar. It's too niche. Yeah.
And that's it. It's exactly it. It's commonplace to us, but go out into the street and poll 100 people and you're going to find that none of those 100 people are also collectors like you.
Or they'll say, it's a thing I did when I was 8 years old. I don't know what you're talking about. Like people do this and they go to shows and we've all been to the National where people in and around the National who are not part of the National, like Uber drivers are like, what's happening in that building that we can't drive more than, it takes 30 minutes to drive 5 blocks. What's happening in that building? And then you have to explain to them there's a big sports memorabilia collectibles convention. And they still look at you like that's a thing and it's that big a thing. And it's like, yeah, it is.
Why are there all these guys in cargo shorts with these briefcases walking around?
I remember in Cleveland, the hotel shuttle bus driver drove me from the hotel to the IX Center. It was like a normal 15-minute drive. It took like an hour and a half. He's like, I've never seen this in my life. What's happening? Like, where are you going? And I explained to him, and he's like, they have a lot of shows in this building. I've never seen anything like this. And that was 2 years ago, right? And so, yeah, exactly. So,
well, I wish I had a moral of this story thing, but I don't. Because I don't know what's going to happen.
Stay tuned. That's the moral. Stay tuned for now, because you never know what's going to happen.
So just to get, as we wrap things up, so just again, looking at some of the other things that Beckett owns, like this is me just guessing, right? Like I would think that PSA would keep the online price guide for a little while. The reason being is because it's tied to the Beckett Marketplace. Beckett Marketplace is basically dealers selling their cards. And so it's kind of like Sport Lots, but for dealers, basically, because they're still handling their own packing and shipping of the cards. Beckett gets a cut of the profits from that. They also pay an upfront fee to have a store on the Beckett online marketplace. So the fact that you have dealers who are paying for this thing already, that's not something you discontinue, right? Like maybe you look at ways to make it better or ways to minimize your expenses on it. That would probably make it worse though. But if you already have people paying money into something, you don't want to necessarily get rid of that. Like the subscriptions, I've always felt like the print magazines were a loss leader. It was kind of like, we're not making money on these, but this is keeping the name out there. and trying to keep us relevant in some way. But I feel now that like PSA owns Beckett, they would just be like, all right, we don't need the magazines. That's not gonna help our footprint. The signature review, we could fold that into our DNA authentication services. The comic book certification and grading, yeah, we could use that as part of our grading. In collectible insurance, almost seems like small potatoes for a company like PSA, right? They're too busy like with like these. I guess they could. I mean, there is growth for that. There's potential for that. I don't really want to talk about that because that's kind of like the least of my worries here. But I would think that like the marketplace has room, and maybe the online price guide, just because that's tied to the marketplace. Because when you sell online, it'll tell you what they think the card is worth. Like, or when you're buying from the marketplace, you can kind of compare and say, oh, well, Clemente is selling this card for $1, but it has a high Beckett value of $2.50, right? For what it's worth. So I don't know. I don't think everything Beckett's going to go away, but I would not be surprised if the magazine is gone in a year, in less than even.
I agree with you on the magazine part, but the rest of that, Collectors has Card Ladder. They don't need pricing anymore.
True. Okay, so then you tie in the marketplace to the Card Ladder.
Well,
It'd be the PSA marketplace. I mean, it still has infrastructure.
That was going to be my next point, because PSA is in bed with eBay and with Golden, who is owned by eBay, and they provide essentially storefront through eBay that provides access to their vault service, where you can buy and sell through their vaulting service. And eBay authentication, where do you think that goes? That goes to PSA.
Right.
So
I don't know if I'd kill the marketplace, though.
They're all in bed together.
No, but I still feel that, like, I don't know, like with eBay and an eBay store. I mean, I know that there's like Burbank, right? Burbank Sports Cards. They got like 1 million cards in stock. They have an eBay store, but they also have a Beckett store, right?
They had an eBay store. They moved over to Fanatics.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Guess I'm just not using them to fill out my sets.
I haven't in years.
Yeah. So anyways, gents, as we wrap this up and wind this down, do you have any final thoughts about this? I know, Tim, you've been doom spiraling about this, which,
I mean, look.
No, it's great.
It is what it is. And
Yeah.
you call me negative, call me whatever you want, but this is, I'm certainly not going to be one of those people that tries to put a positive spin on this, because I don't see anything positive.
Clemente?
It's just like I mentioned earlier, it's still the idea that few people own everything is bothersome to me. And then the other thing too is you mentioned nostalgia. The Beckett name still means something to, we all got into the hobby with Beckett magazine, but a series of bad decisions, they've had to move on. And we live in a world that's internet based, technology, AI, and Beckett is still printing magazines. Their business is centered around a 30-year-old model and doesn't work anymore. And it's, if they do go away, as you predict, Sal, then it'll be sort of a milestone in that they lasted this long. But it's time to move on for that.
But they're not even adhering to this 30-year-old model in a good way. You know what I mean?
Right, there's no innovation. There's no innovation. That's the issue. And
it doesn't even have to be innovative. Like it just has to give people something. There has to be some value. There's no value in the price guides, right? So maybe the value's in the stories, right? Like look at SCD, no price guide, all stories, right? So there's and ads. And you know what? People would use the ads. I mean, because there's like stores that like list stuff that they have for sale, and people who maybe don't want to buy on eBay, they'll look and, yet it is kind of archaic, but what I'm saying is that it fills a niche, right?
I guess my final thought is that for Beckett to grow, they'd have to innovate and hire more people, and they're just not in a position to do that. So they're actually in a position where they have to downgrade and be bought by somebody else. That's the position they put themselves in. Yep. And there aren't that many suitors out there. We mentioned There aren't that many people that understand and know what the hobby business is. And PSA is one of those people. If it wasn't PSA, it'd be Fanatics, or it's one of two companies really. And so, or maybe three. And so this is where we're at, and it's a consolidation, which is not good, but it's going to happen more and more. And for every time we talk about the hobby growing, these are signs that it's not growing everywhere for everybody. It's growing for a few people. And I think collectors are going to be left, like Tim said, we're going to be the ones that are going to have fewer choices. That's never a good thing.
Collectors lowercase c, not collectors uppercase C.
Right, exactly.
Us, the plebes of the collecting world.
We are the plebes.
The plebeians, yes. And now that I think about it, I think about like when in using Beckett's website a lot, like especially their price guide, not necessarily for pricing cards, but just for looking up cards and stuff, right? And the online price guide. And I remember like when they did a redesign of their OPG. This was around 2007, 2008, and it was terrible, and it got really slow, and people hated it. And then I remember when I want to say it used to be like 10 or 20 bucks a month. No, excuse me, like $20 a year to subscribe to the online price guide. And then they made it something nuts, like 80 bucks a year. Like they really jacked up the price. And I think that even though this all happened before the rise of mobile apps, I mean, this gives incentive for people to find other ways. And then even like now, like when I want to look up a checklist, I go to Trading Card Database. I don't go to Beckett. I only go to Beckett if there's that paragraph of text about the set. If I'm saying, I'm writing about 1984 O-Pee-Chee hockey, and I want to look up what Beckett might say about that. And they might say like cards came 15 in a pack and cost 10 cents, right? Like that kind of information. That's the only thing I really use Beckett for, is kind of like that miscellaneous info. I don't use them for pricing info. I don't use them for checklisting info. I don't use them for finding images of cards. I mean, there's other better places to do that. So yeah, I mean, there's just, it doesn't, I guess this is just progress, right? This is just erosion of the old and bringing in with the new. Now
Erosion's a good word.
Erosion, yeah, that is a good word. Makes us sound smart. Well, okay then, I guess we should wrap this one up because it's been a pretty long but informative show. So, thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you like to read, check out our newsletter at puckjunk.com/newsletter and the blog at puckjunk.com. If you'd like to support this podcast, you could do so by purchasing a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And until next time, collect what you like.